Food has become a commodity, and we're looking at a food crisis this winter that could lead to a huge rise, like what the other gentleman was talking about. I just bought a 25-pound bag of Lundberg short grain organic rice for $50. A month before, I bought that same bag for $45. You can see the food prices, because it's a commodity, because people, when the housing crisis happened, people stopped investing so much in housing and started moving into food, and that has helped jack the prices up. So these free trade agreements, like the WTO, NAFTA, which took the land, there used to be a constitutional right, Article 27 in Mexico, where you had the right to grow your own food. And that right was taken, and that land was confiscated, and it was given to large U.S., mainly U.S. Agricultural interests. And so this whole trend from the WTO up till now to make the focus of food profits rather than something that people need, because we all need food, it's also ruined the quality of food, as I was saying before. You know, it's lowered it so it's just something to look good and sell, not something to be nutritious. And you have like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange that now is like, they made this law in the last few years under Clinton, unfortunately, which allows banks to buy and hoard huge amounts of food, keep it in warehouses until the prices go up. Used to be that they were not allowed to do that. They're doing that with other natural resources like lumber and minerals, but more tragically is food. And so these trade policies need to definitely be turned back, and we will be in serious. NAFTA was already horrible enough. The two new policies that Obama is trying to push through, the Free Trade Agreement of the Pacific and of the Atlantic, will doom millions and probably billions of people to starvation as a direct result, and it's hardly making any news at all. And so there's definitely a lot of effort to organize against it. But when you have so many crises like Exxon, Keystone XL pipeline, you have clearly the combination of climate change and the policies that promote climate change that are so present in our country, and then the investment policies and financial policies, all of them are kind of converging towards this tipping point that was referred to, which could really push the public into a crisis. But it's up to us to organize and stop it, and to share these ideas with as many people as possible, because I think almost everybody goes along thinking that something's wrong, and they're on their own about it, and they don't realize the rest of the public, actually probably would share their concerns, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be made to seem foolish or, outsiders or something like that. And so that's why getting out on the street every week with the Food Not Bombs food and the literature, creating a public space where people in Lawrence can come together and talk about these ideas. And it's through that conversation that's inspired by the banner and the literature and the meal together that ends up coming up with these amazing ideas, like what happened in Iceland. And if we could imagine if every town in America had this public presence, on a public street where people are coming by and talking to you about these ideas, it would have a huge impact, and that's why the government has done so much, why we're considered America's most hardcore terrorist group, is because our ideas, from their point of view, are terrorism. So, is there any last questions or comments?
I have one.
Okay.
It seems like, especially with younger people, it's easier now to flock to maybe a major hub. I know Food Not Bombs is huge on the West Coast and the East Coast, obviously, but food, maybe there's some things you can't do at a certain distance. I was wondering what your feelings are as far as staying here in Lawrence, supporting a smaller Food Not Bombs versus using your time and efforts into a bigger part of the organization.
Well, no, I think it's important that one of the key aspects of Food Not Bombs is that it's decentralized and it's in every town. And actually, the fact that if there's a really strong Lawrence Food Not Bombs, that is super, super important, because one, people do pass through here and it can be an influence from that perspective. But also, if the community of Lawrence has all kinds of different ideas about sustainable agriculture, about stopping fracking, all kinds of different, if all the issues that are being discussed on the on the west and east coast are being discussed here, has a huge influence, because it's really every community needs to be on board to change society. And so I think it's, I live in a town, the smallest Food Not Bombs chapter in the world. There's only 5,000 people in our town. Yet we have raised people from all over the world that just happen to pass by our literature table on Saturdays, and we just stay there for 3 hours. And we have live music, we have the literature and the banner, and even though we only serve 50 meals a week, the impact is far beyond just that 50 meals. So I think, it's really valuable to do Food Not Bombs in every small community. I mean, I know there's an attempt recently in Topeka. I don't know if that's still happening, but that'd be great if it is. And Wichita, there's a bunch of groups now in Oklahoma, like Normal and Stillwater, Oklahoma City. If we're like every single place, and you can travel from town to town and run into a Food Not Bombs and get the ideas and the message that we're trying to share, that multiplier effect of us being everywhere you go is will be transformative. Yes?
I was wondering about how to approach an institution like Kansas University, who throws out a lot of food from their commissary.
Yeah, any suggestions?
Well, if you talk to the workers that have to throw the food out, to start out with that and work backwards, that's the way to do it. And sometimes what will happen is the food workers will actually in my book, which is also online, there's the Good Samaritan Act. So what will often happen is big institutions like KU will go, oh, we can't do that, we would be liable, we might be sued. But the reality is that they can't be sued, because on October 1st of I think 1996, when Clinton abolished welfare as we know it, and was putting in NAFTA, to get people like us to shut up, he gave us the Good Samaritan Act. And the Good Samaritan Act means that nobody in America can be sued for sharing food with an organization that feeds the poor. So if somebody were made ill eating food donated by KU to Food Not Bombs, they would not, the KU would be protected by the Good Samaritan Act. And there's a one-page, 8.5 by 11 sheet that Second Harvest put out, which I ripped off and put in the book. And so that's really, really valuable. So you can work your way backwards. And there could be another thing that's happened at universities is that there could be a day once a month or something like that where everybody that's on the food program donates, instead of the money going to eating at the cafeteria or something, that resources are go to the school, and then that food instead is given to Food Not Bombs, and then the meals are given out on the, in the streets. So I've seen that at a lot of universities, where they end up with the food program itself using the the financial connection between the students and the meals as a way of raising awareness, and then getting food and then giving it away in the streets. So there could be campaigns like that, and actually that would be a huge influence if there was if Food Not Bombs had a literature table every week at a prominent location on campus, advocating that some kind of policies like that, trying to reach as many students as possible. I know sometimes it seems really hopeless with people want to be drinking beer and partying and all that, but it's amazing how many people you can ultimately reach through campus with some regular presence like that. And so Food Not Bombs doesn't always have to share food at everything it does. A literature table at the Student Union can be hugely valuable, and then running a campaign trying to get like a petition for the administration to donate the food that's being wasted. Things like that could be, you know, even larger than the actual food being recovered. It could have an influence on the ideas that students have about how they're wasting their food. So.
With that, can we give Keith a round of applause?
Thanks for having me. Come up and hang out and get some tofu dip and stuff like that. So.
Please do.
Stick around.
Yeah. Cool.
That's great.